is Diane, and I'm here to instruct you this evening in a painting based on the book that Oxford has chosen for our Oxford Reads this year. It is a book entitled The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donohue. This painting is about a scene in the book, if you haven't read it yet you should, where the two nurses are sitting up on the roof of the hospital. The book takes place in 1918 and it's during a terrible time, much like we're going through now with a pandemic. So I hope you enjoy this class. So to begin our painting, we're going to use our white and then our blue and then our black, and that is going to be the basis of the background for the painting. We're going to start with white at the bottom, and then we're going to work it in with blue, and then the top will be black. So we're just going to have the night sky to begin with. All right, so you're going to pour out a good size, or a good amount I should say, of white. Probably, I don't know if you can see white on the tray, but probably a size of a toonie to start. With your biggest brush, you're going to want to just dampen it slightly, not too much. If you do feel that it's too wet, you can always use your napkin to dry it off slightly. So we're going to take our white, which, because your canvas is white, you're still going to see that it's still white, but it just covers up the canvas that is there. It kind of gives it a more smoother look. So you're going to start out by painting white on the bottom of your canvas. And I like to go to the edge of the painting on the sides and on the other side, just to give that even look. Some people like to take black afterwards and just paint around the edge black, but I kind of like it when the painting goes all the way around the canvas. All right, so I'm going to give about, I would say, a good 1.5 to 2 inches of white on the bottom. And then we are going to take the blue and we're going to start in, without cleaning off your brush, you're going to start in by adding the blue to the paintbrush. And you're going to brush in the blue in there as well. And you're just going to add the blue. And if you would like to, which I think looks really pretty, is to blend so there's not such a stark line between the white and the blue. You can just add a little bit of more water and then add a little bit of the white to the blue, just to get kind of an in-between, or a lighter blue to the paint. And then that will help as you go up the painting to give it different shades of blue. All right, so I'm going to continue to do that. I might add a little bit more white just so that there isn't such a stark contrast between the blue and the white. And I didn't wash my brush off because I actually really like when the paint mixes together and gives you this blending of the two colors. So yeah, having that little bit of white added into the blue just gives you, as you can see, the sky is going to get slightly darker as we go up the canvas. And you're just going to keep mixing the blue and the white together to get a little bit darker as we go up. And you do want to put enough paint on your brush to make sure that you don't see the canvas in behind. All right, and remember to get over to those sides of your painting. All right, and then you're just going to continue to mix like a teeny bit of white in as you go up, and then a little less each time as you go, so that it's getting darker as you go up your painting. I absolutely love painting skies. There's some pretty amazing sunsets and sunrises all over the world. I think some of the most beautiful ones I've seen is when you're out near a body of water where there's not a lot of lights at night and it's just all nature. Alright, again, just remember to get over to the sides of your painting. And you can see that it is getting darker as we go up. This blue paint is just a little bit thinner than the white paint. The white paint's pretty thick, surprisingly. They're both from the dollar store. I like to get a lot of my acrylic paints. I know that there's many places to get art supplies, but in a pinch, the dollar store is fantastic for acrylic paint. It's not quite the quality that you get at Michael's, but I like it. All right, so now we're pretty much to the actual full depth of the blue paint without very much of the white. Okay, and I would say that that is about 3/4 of the way up your painting. Now we're going to stop with that for a minute and we're going to add black to your tray. And the black, I would say probably the size of a loonie. I'm going to put it up by the blue on my tray just because I'm going to start to mix a little bit of the black with the blue. You can always add more blue to your tray. But I'm just going to take the end of my brush just a little bit and I'm going to mix it in with this. Again, I didn't clean my brush off. I just mixed the, so there's still a little bit of white on the brush too. But you don't want too much black yet because a little bit of black goes a very long way. So you're going to see that it's starting to darken a little bit in there. I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue just to get all the way across. And then we'll darken it again as we go. Gotta get the edge filled in. Alright, and just add a little bit more black as we go. I might have to put a little more blue on my tray because I'm running low on the blue in order to mix this properly. And then once we get to the very top, close to the very edge, it gets completely black. So I just realized that I splattered. I'm going to take my other little brush. I kind of splattered some of the blue when I was adding it. So if you do find that you do a couple little splatters, you can always take your other fine brush and just kind of go over those little speckles. We're going to put a lot of speckles on for the stars when we get to that point. But for now, sometimes the lid of the paint makes it splatter. All right, I'm going to add a little more black here. And I'll just tell you, now that we're halfway done the canvas base painting, that this acrylic paint comes off skin very well, but not off of clothes as well. So be very careful when you're painting, or make sure that you are dressed in clothes that you're not super concerned about getting paint on. All right. into a little bit more of the black and less of the blue. And then by this point, you're pretty much just painting with black. Get that edge. I really like how you can see the brush strokes in the painting, because skies sometimes look like someone has hand painted them. All right, so, oh yes, I just have to do the very top edge with the black. And there is your canvas for the sky. And now we are going to let that dry for a few minutes. If you have a blow dryer, you can use the blow dryer to get that to dry quicker. So we're just gonna give it a couple of minutes to give it a good dry, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're going to start the clouds, which is very exciting. While you're waiting for your painting to dry, it might be a good time to go take your water that's pretty dark and dirty and refill it. I'll be back in a few. For the next part of our painting, we're going to use our sponge. And if you don't have a sponge, you actually can still use your paintbrush to paint the clouds in the painting. But you're going to need to take the either end of the sponge, and you're just going to tear off sections of it just to make it kind of more rounded. So I'm just going to tear off the top bits of it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, the more rough it is, the cooler your clouds will look. All right, I think that if I can get that little corner off, that's going to work pretty good. All right, so your sponge should just not look square at the top. It should kind of look a little bit more rounded. You can still play around with it a little bit. You just, once you start painting with it, you don't want to start pulling it apart. You're going to be very painty. All right, so there is the sponge. And we're going to go back in, and to start with the clouds, I'm going to move the painting closer so you can see the clouds. We're going to start with just white, and then we're going to start to blend in all the deeper, darker colors. So we're going to start with kind of doing the center part white down across the painting. This is an idea that I found, but you do not have to do your clouds like this if you don't want to. If you want your clouds to be more across your painting, that's fine. I just thought this was kind of a cool look, and then with the nurses at this side, it kind of gives you that where they're like, oh, look over there. But like I said, if you don't like the angle of the clouds, you can totally do your clouds across the painting instead of diagonal. All right, so let's begin. We're going to take our now dry painting and our sponge, and we're going to dip it into the white paint. And you can blot on your whatever you're holding your paint in. I just use these little styrofoam trays that I found at the dollar store. But if you have a plate, just blot it either on your table covering or on the tray. All right, and so we're going to start in the top corner, and we're just going to go in and we're just going to kind of blot some clouds in. And I like to leave, as you can see, some black peeking through of the sky. It just is a very nice look, I think. And you can go in quite thick with the white paint. Leaving some gaps, and the number of gaps and where they're positioned again is up to you. This is just kind of this part is really fun. I know that some people are scared of clouds, but it basically is there's never a wrong move when it comes to painting, especially with acrylic. If you don't like it, you can let it dry, and acrylic paint really nicely is able to be painted right over top. It's not so easy with a watercolor, but with acrylic you can totally do that. All right, so I am liking the position of the clouds like so, and now we're going to go in and we're going to take a little bit of the blue that is beside the white, and we're just going to kind of blend out the clouds with different shades so that it's not such a stark white look. So it looks kind of like the cosmos. To both the outside of your clouds and the inside of your clouds. And if your background is very dry, it will not lift the paint off of your background. If it isn't quite dry, then it might, but touch-ups later can also happen. In. And you don't want to cover up your entire background because you do want to be able to see the night sky behind. I'm going to dip a little bit of deeper blue in here just to give it a little separation of the clouds. Every time I do a painting, I do the original and then I do the next painting. They don't always turn out exactly the same, and I think that that is amazing because every day that you paint, you're in a different creative mood, and some days are painting days and some days aren't. All right, so now I'm just blotting a little bit more of the black in. And then we're going to go around the edges, and we're just going to tap it in gently to the outer edge of the clouds, just so that there isn't such a white look to the clouds as they blend out, as they get thinner in the atmosphere. Like I said, the fun of this is you go to the point where you're like, I like it. I'm not going to put any more color in. That is a very fine line with painting, knowing when to stop. All right, I'm going to do the same to this side just to get some. And you can go in with your paintbrush too and add white detail. in if you've accidentally covered up more of the white paint than you wanted to. You can go back in and make it look a little more, the clouds look a little more fluffy. I think I went a little too dark there, so I'm going to tap out and kind of blend that in. And then I'm definitely going to go more blue. I'm going to add a little more blue to my tray. It's nice to have some place to use to blend your paint. I felt that I went a little too... And you can actually use your fingers. I find that sometimes blending with your fingers also works nice to get a little bit more texture. Okay, I'm going to try to get as much black out of my sponge as I can because it really got black and I want it to be more blue down in this area because the black is more up in the top. So I want to blend out some of that black. Liking that. So I'm just gonna see, maybe adding a little bit more white in here for different dimensions. Yeah, completely different look. And I like that. Just gonna go back in and maybe make those holes in the painting a little smaller with the white. Okay. All right. So I am liking that. It's not quite the same, but I like the more white in it actually. So now I'm going to take my paintbrush and again, just make sure that it's nice and dry. And then I am going to just maybe add a little bit extra white in spots because there could be like a cloud that's kind of sitting on top of a cloud. And then it kind of goes out into the sky. Also the paintbrush just gives a little bit more texture to the clouds. I'm amazed at how different clouds can look in the same cloud formation. There can be nice wispy clouds, there can be thick poofy clouds, especially if it's storm clouds. They can look extremely angry. And then the ones on a bright sunny day where you lay down and you can see animal shapes and things in them. I'm just incredibly amazed at our sky. Just kind of doing little bits of swirls in there with the white. All right, and I might just put a few little cloudy looking like so. All right, so now it is time to paint our roof of our hospital. And I just painted, I'll show you a little bit closer up. I painted a little bit of the building just so that you could see that they were leaning up against something, and then the bottom is just the roof of the hospital. All right, if you have a ruler, feel free to use the ruler to get the edge nice and straight. I'm just going to give my paintbrush a good mix and rinse, because we're going to use this paintbrush. Actually, you know what? Let's do the stars now, because then when you paint the people and the building, then you won't have little splotches of white on them. So this is the funnest part of the painting. It's splatter painting the stars in. I love this part. However, again, with your clothing, you might want at this point go and get something to put over your clothing, or if you don't have your table completely covered, now is the time to cover it, because this gets messy. But it's so much fun. All right, so we're gonna go back in. I have to add more white to my tray because I have completely decimated my white doing the clouds. All right, so you're going to make sure your brush is very dry, and you're going to dip it into the paint, and you're gonna dab it just a little bit on your, just because it gets very splattery. All right, so splatter painting 101. You're going to take your fingers, you're going to hold your thumb against here, and you're going to flick down on your painting. And you're just going to go over the painting. The best part is not having too much paint on your brush. I'm actually going to have to get some more and dab it just slightly. Some of my stars are very big, and that's just because I had too much paint on my brush. So you want to hold it back far enough that you're not flicking giant bits of clouds on. And you can do as many flicks as you like. I'm just going to see. I am definitely going to need to put more paint on my brush. Okay, so you could actually flick for trial on your tray just to see, to get them if there's too much paint on, but I did not have enough paint on mine, so it did not flick. I'm going to flip the brush over. Yes, now I'm seeing some splatters. All right, I'm going to do it again, dip my brush in. I'm going to flick it onto my tray just to get some of the massive bits of paint. And then I'm just going to keep flicking until I get the number of stars that I want. I love nights where you can really see the stars. Do some down in this corner because there doesn't seem to be a lot there. All right, again, knowing when to stop. If you feel that there isn't enough stars splatter in your sky, you actually can take your smaller paintbrush and you can go in and just, with the tip of your brush, just add a couple of stars. Just again, be very careful because they can be a bit too big. But I think I will definitely have to do some down into this area because my paint just did not want to flick today. right, and now it's time to paint our wall. All right, so we're going to do that in complete black. I'm going to use my little paintbrush, and I'm going to go, I would say, a good 3 to 4 inches up, and I'm going to go to the side of my painting. I'm going to draw a line, and then I'm just going to draw it out onto the front edge of my painting. Like so, and then I'm just going to draw a box coming down all the way to the bottom. If you can do this freehand, great. If you feel that you want to go get a ruler, again, that is completely fine. So there is the part of the building that they're going to be leaning up against. I don't like that little star right there, so I'm going to kind of blend that in. Okay. So then you're going to take your paintbrush, and this part doesn't have to be exactly straight across the bottom of your painting, but you're going to draw a line across the bottom of your painting from the side that is the building to the other side, which just kind of is the top of the roof of the hospital. There we go. So now I'll just show you. So I just have a line that goes from the wall down to the other side of the building, and then I'm going to fill that in with black. I'm probably going to use my bigger brush because it will just go faster that way. I want to make sure that that's nice and dry. Alright, and we're going to go into the black. We're just going to hold it up for you guys to be able to see. And we're going to go to the edge. We're going to paint the edge first, the building black. I'm going to have to get more black. So there is the side of the building, and now we're going to go along the bottom. I think I will do the actual edge first. This will make it easier. I turn it that way and just go along the side. Okay, now this is the tricky bit. Just getting that small little edge. You can go back and use your smaller brush to get that, just so that you don't go too far over the line that you painted. there is the roof, like so. And now you are definitely going to use your smaller brush for this part. I'm just going to leave my brush in there and let it soak. So for the two nurses, the main characters of the book, we are going to, I'll give you a close-up of them. So you are going to start with painting their heads and then their shoulders and then their lower parts of their body. I just find, and then we'll do the feet, kind of going out. You only really see this nurse's feet. The other one is kind of buried in the shadows, which is wonderful because I was thinking it's going to look strange if I have to add different feet on there. Okay, so again, this nurse is leaning up against the building, but there's like a gap so that you can still see the building, and then a space, and then there's like a little space between them, and they're holding hands. And I did paint their hearts red. It's not easy to see that, but there, if I put it up very close, you can see. And yeah, the one nurse is pointing up to the stars. Okay, so here we go. So the one nurse, we're going to start by painting her head in just a circle. And then I just added, because if you think about what nurses would have wore their hair like back then, most likely their hair was in a bun. So I did my best to do a bun in the hair. So you're just going to draw her face, and you're going to give her a teeny bit of a nose that kind of goes out. And then it's going to come in a little bit and go down to her chin. So I'll give you a close-up of that once I fill this in. Okay, so there is her little face. Now I'm going to go to the back of her head, and I'm going to add that little bit of a bun right there. There is her bun. And now we're going to give her a neck. I'll see if I can get up close enough to do this. Okay, so her neck is just going to be right there, and it's just a little line. And then we're going to give her her shoulders. They're going to come out from her neck, and then come out from her neck and go down a little bit. And then we're going to do the curve of her back, kind of going like that, and then down to the roof of the building. All right, so now we'll just kind of paint in her body for now, and I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of put her arm going out like that right now, just like that, because we have to factor in the position of the next nurse. All right, just do that. So we're just gonna have a little bit of a curve to her body, and then we're gonna fill that in with black. just kind of paint the lower part of her body, which will blend into the second nurse's. All right, so for the second nurse, so there we go so far with the first nurse. And then we will put the second nurse just a little bit. I would say that her bun is going to be close to the nose of the nurse that you first have done. So I'm going to put right about there. And then her forehead, her hair, and her little nose, and her chin out there. And then I'll show you guys a close-up. So there is the second nurse's head. Okay, so then we are going to give her a body now. So you're just going to come down from her, I'll give you a close-up of the other painting. Come down from her head and just kind of have her head tilted back a little bit so you don't see as much of her neck. I just find that that will be helpful. Her hair kind of maybe is heavier. And then her body, and then her arm pointing up. And then I believe that that's the nurse's feet that are sticking up. All right, so there is her body coming down. And her arm going out here to point up. Alright, and so then I'm just going to go out for her legs a little bit here, and then just kind of put her feet pointing upward. And we're just going to fill in her body. Okay. And then we're going to have, so to me it looks like this is the arm that she is pointing up to the stars with. So I'm going to just give her a hand so you can see that she's pointing. And then I'm going to see about making her other hand, which is behind her shoulder, I'm bringing it out here so it looks like they're holding hands here. Just kind of put their hands like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just basically a blob to make it look like they're holding hands. Now, this one nurse looks like her shoulder is very, very straight. So I'm going to see about softening that a little bit by maybe curving her back. Still very, very straight, but that's okay. If you want, there is a little bit of a gap between my building and my nurse. So you can either make, if you feel that that is important, you can make the wall come out to touch your shoulder. But I feel that they're so excited, they're leaning forward and they're looking up at the stars. All right, I am going to fix the one nurse's nose because I think that she looks like she has quite a large nose. So I'm going to even out her head just a little bit. This is the joys of doing a painting that is kind of like a silhouette. You don't get to actually paint all of the features, and so it can cause some funny looking expressions. There, I think. I just kind of brought her forehead out a little bit so that I can bring her nose out, but not making it look super pointy, and giving her more of a chin to balance. There, that is better, I think. Okay, so now is time to, if you feel that you need to balance anything out of your people, I'm just going to go in there a little bit. There. So there they are, sitting, staring at the beautiful sky. And I am now going to clean off my paintbrush and paint in their hearts. Again, if you have not read this book, you really should. It is fantastic. Oh, my paint is a little bit runny, so I just need a very tiny drop of red. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to paint in their hearts, and it's just like a kind of like a V, where you paint one side and then you paint the other. There. What you'll notice in the story is that there are different colors represented in the book for different sections and segments of the book. So one of them is black, and one of them is red, and one of them is yellow. So we're going to add a little bit of yellow to the clouds. You may really want to get your paintbrush clean before doing this. I'm just going to add the yellow teeny bit to the white. Actually, I may not use that brush because it is very dark with the black from doing the roof. So I'm going to clean off my other one, and I'm going to dip a little bit of yellow into the white, and we're going to go in and just add a little bit of detail in here just to add the color yellow into the clouds. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a teeny bit if you want to. It's kind of like this might be right around where the moon is, and there's just like a little bit of glow of yellow through the clouds, like that. And there is the yellow. All right. Well, I really hope that you had fun doing this paint class, and I appreciate your time this evening to be part of it. And Oxford County has many copies of the book, The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donohue. So get your copy. You can also get it as an ebook as well. Thank you, and goodbye.